She's feisty, she's funny, and she tells it like it is. Get ready for Empower Readings with Corbie Mitleid. What are your opportunities right now? What are the possibilities? Ask Corbie and cross the bridge from fear to fearlessness and fly. Here's your host, Corbie Mitleid.
Good evening, and I hope that your Thanksgiving was absolutely wonderful, whether it was groaning boards and 32,000 people, or it was simply you and your close people. Welcome to the holiday season. And we're also coming to the end of 2012 and all the mishigas around the Mayan calendar, and are we all going to fall off the edge of the earth, and. So I wanted to invite on one of my favorite astrologers. Lisa Verschoor Smith is the owner of Avalon Astrology. She is a professional astrologer practicing in southern Vermont. She's studied astrology since 1986 and started her professional practice about 4 years later. She feels that her goal is to assist others in becoming more aware of the value of astrology to enhance their life experience and figure out how to use it as a tool for personal development. We're going to call her Lisa V. Lisa Verschoor Smith is gorgeous, but it's a mouthful. Lisa V, welcome to Empower Readings.
Hey, Corb, how you doing?
Ready to rock and roll, girl. So one of the things that we were noticing tonight a little bit was we had a little trouble getting on the air at first, and you told me that was because the moon was void, of course. Could you explain that to me? Because I've never been really clear on that.
Well, void of course moons are my favorite thing because the moon changes signs every 2.5 days. It goes through all 12 signs in a month. And what happens during the time that she is waiting for her new orders, as she is today, she's moving from Gemini into Cancer. And yesterday she was in Gemini. Last night at 8:04 p.m., she had no orders in the sky. She wasn't making any aspects to planets. And she will not do that until tomorrow morning at 8:55 a.m. when she's given her new orders in Cancer. So between the time that the moon changes signs and is not making any aspects to any planets, in one sign to another is called a void of course. And a void just means that you kick back, you can eat, take it easy, expect things to turn out not the way you'd planned. So you wouldn't want to make any important decisions on a void. You wouldn't want to make important commitments, that sort of thing.
But it's
not good energy for finding things.
It's not as bad as Mercury retrograde. I mean, jeezy peasy, the last one was kicking everybody's butt.
Well, that Mercury retrograde was pretty powerful because in October, Mercury, which is the planet of communication, was just moving along through Scorpio, moved into Sagittarius, and then it went retrograde. And retrogrades occur 3 times a year, and they last about 3 weeks. And this particular retrograde, Mercury was at 4 degrees Sagittarius on November 7th. It went retrograde, or actually the evening of November 6th. Went retrograde, moved back through Sagittarius, through Scorpio, the death, drugs, deep, dark mysteries of Scorpio. And currently, when it went direct this past Monday, it was at 18 degrees Scorpio. So it's at the same degree that it was in the middle of October. So we're kind of going back over the same points that we had addressed in October.
Okay.
And now it's moving ahead. And, of course, we had that lunar eclipse yesterday. So it's pretty close to the lunar eclipse. And it's affecting all of us in some particular area of our life.
It really has been one of the most crazy, active, roller coaster, no brakes astrological periods that I can remember for years. And you and I were even talking about the asteroids, and that's something nobody talks about.
Well, there are thousands of asteroids that have been named. I mean, the asteroids are pretty significant, and there are astrologers currently that just focus on the asteroids. But I have found that the four major ones that I look at in a chart are Juno, Vesta, Ceres, and Pallas Athena. And when I look at those in a chart, it really takes you to a whole deeper level of understanding an individual and where their priorities are and what sort of commitments they're willing to make in this lifetime, commitments to themselves and to other people. And this lunar eclipse that we had yesterday was aspected heavily by a T-square between three asteroids, Vesta, Juno, and Pallas Athena. And what that symbolizes is the connection between Juno, which is the divine consort. She's the one that presides over loyalty and marriage and fidelity. And so wherever Juno is in your chart is where you are willing to preside over or feel committed to something. Of course, if Juno is in your 10th house in a chart, that would mean that you are committed to your work. And the 7th house is the house of marriage. So if you know your chart and you know where these planets and asteroids fall, it's wonderful to take a look at those and, really see what's happening and get a little insight into yourself or somebody else.
Is it common for most astrologers, to know about asteroids and how they aspect, or is this something that's become relatively important recently?
Oh, I think it's relatively new, but most astrologers are aware of it. There's a lot of writing about it. There are a lot of articles that have been written. One of my favorite books was The Divine Goddesses, the Asteroid Goddesses, that was written by Demetri George back quite some time ago. And you can look at one of the asteroid ephemerises or the books that are written and find out where the asteroids are in your chart if you don't have it listed. And it also gives the interpretations of what it means in each one of the houses and what it means if it's conjunct, say for instance, Juno's conjunct your Venus or conjunct your Pluto or in a particular sign. So right now, Juno is traveling through the heavens, and she is going to be on the new moon. She's going to be at, let's see here, she's going to be in Sagittarius, where she's been. And of course, Juno in Sagittarius is just like a planet in Sagittarius. It's about your belief system, and it's about rules and all types of visions that you might share with somebody else or hold for yourself. So Juno in Sagittarius right now is about having a higher vision. And when you think about what's going on in the world and what people are committed to, what is their reality and what is their vision? And this is soon going to be moving into Capricorn, and it's going to be affecting, because Pluto is in Capricorn, of course, right now. So when Juno moves into Capricorn towards the end of December, it's going to secure the commitments and bring that loyalty and fidelity down to more traditional and a more traditional belief-based vision of the future. So you may want to look at your long-term security rather than the Sag, which is taking a risk. Juno in Sag just says, don't fence me in.
Now, there's an interesting piece of news today that, let's take a look at it with Juno and Sag. The United Nations voted to recognize Palestine as a state, even though it doesn't physically exist yet. So how would something that radical play into the idea of Juno and Sag?
Well, let's remember the moon is void all day. So whatever is done today is not going to hold any weight. Okay.
Okay.
And it's sad to say, but it will be. I'll give you an example. When President Obama was first inaugurated the first time around, the moon was void that day. And while I watched him go through the whole process, I was sitting with some friends and I said, I can't believe that we're watching him be inaugurated on a void of course moon when nothing ever comes to fruition. And it kind of concerned me a little bit. Well, what happened? They had to give him, Justice Roberts had to repeat the whole thing the next day because something wasn't right or something wasn't said, or I forget what happened, but the whole thing had to be repeated the next day.
Yeah, something in the oath got botched. Well, hopefully this coming January 20th, we're not going to have a void of course moon, are we?
Well, that is yet to be determined. I think that I haven't looked at the chart, believe it or not, for January 20th, but I think it probably is void.
Nice.
From what I have read, I have not looked at the chart, but and the 20th I think is a Sunday, isn't it? Yeah, it's a Sunday.
Is it?
Are you sure?
So, well,
so January 20th is a Sunday.
Holiday.
And the moon is void. It's void at 10 in the morning. And it goes into Gemini on the 21st. Martin Luther King Day.
Of your 4 years in office doesn't come to fruition either, because we sure saw the Republicans go in lockstep to keep him from getting anything important done.
Right. Well, and the other thing was that he also entered office with a very strong Saturn retrograde, which meant that he spent a great deal of his first year going back over old stuff. Mm-hmm. So, this time Saturn doesn't go retrograde until February, and it'll be interesting to see. It'll be very interesting to see what happens. There's a new moon right before the inauguration, about a week before it. And he's a Leo. Saturn is in Scorpio, which is squaring his sun. So it's not going to be an easy ride. It's going to be a pretty difficult ride this time around, even more so than the last time.
Well,
so we'll see what happens, right? But Juno is a pretty significant player in the heavens because she is, like I said, influencing Pluto. And Pluto is the planet of death and rebirth and transformation. Pluto was in Sagittarius from 1995 to 2008. We all know what happened in 2008 when it moved out of Sag and it went into Capricorn. Most people didn't say, wow, Pluto's in Capricorn now, so I think we're going to see the demise of all the, these large corporations, and there's going to be a complete overhaul. But the interesting thing about what's going on and has been going on for the last 4 years is that it coincides with the Mayans' message about consciousness being raised, and the fact that basically the nine-step period, which is ending, which, so from my understanding, ended last October 28th, not this December 21st. But, that's the kind of thing that is supposed to bring a unity consciousness to the world. So it'll be very interesting to know exactly how this is going to transpire, and we're watching it very, very slowly, which is what Pluto does. It moves very, very slowly.
So how do people work with this end of the year stuff for themselves?
They get their charts. You get
Okay.
your chart. You take a look at what's going on in your chart. You see what, if you don't have an astrologer that can interpret it for you, you take a look at where the most important thing, I think, right now is to find out, one, where is Pluto transiting and where is Saturn transiting? Where is Saturn in Scorpio landing in your chart? If you're a Scorpio, it's on your sun. And
Okay.
if you're Capricorn, you have Pluto transiting your sun because Pluto's in Capricorn. Saturn stays in the sign for about 2.5 years. Pluto stays in the sign for about 10, 12 years. So a Pluto transit takes a long time, whereas a Saturn transit, 2.5 years, you've either gotten the lessons or you don't. But Pluto, because it's so small, will slowly inch its way through like it has been in the Wall Street, like it has been in a lot of big business, the Occupy Wall Street, the uprisings, the Arab Spring uprisings. Very, very, very slowly it moves in and it causes such upheaval and many times death and destruction, but out of the ashes come the phoenix, right? And all of us are going to be experiencing a Pluto transit of some kind and a Saturn transit of some kind in some area of our life. So it would behoove you to know where that is if you don't already.
All right. Now, is this if we look at our natal chart, or do we have to get a progressed chart?
No, look at your natal chart. You always
Okay.
look at what's happening in the heavens to your natal chart. Even though the progressed chart is important on some level, you look at transits to the natal chart. So if any of your listeners are out there and they know where their Saturn is, or they want to know and they have their time of birth, I'd be happy to tell them where it's affecting them.
Perfect timing. We do want your calls in. It's 248-809-3475. That's 248-809-3475. We've got Lisa Verschoor Smith in with us. We're discussing astrology. We're discussing asteroids. We're discussing Scorpio and all of the crazy things that are going on in the heavens right now. So this is your chance, guys. I do cards. She does the stars. Give her a call. Meanwhile, let's play with my chart since I've got it out. My Scorpio is actually 18 degrees retrograde, and it looks like it's in Saturn.
Your Saturn is in Scorpio at 18 degrees.
Right.
Okay, which means you're going to be going through a Saturn return. Saturn is going back to the place it was at your birth over the next couple of years.
Okay.
And one of the most important things, the 18-degree number that I gave you, was the Mercury. Mercury is at 18. Mercury went direct at 18 degrees Scorpio. So what we refer to that as is you had transiting Mercury conjuncting your natal Saturn. And what that signifies, your Saturn is your whole setup in life.
Mm-hmm.
It's where you, how you handle difficulty, what type of, I always say what type of manners you have, because, if you have Saturn in Aries, you can run over people on the street. If you have Saturn in Libra, you like balance and beauty, Saturn in Scorpio loves the mysteries of life. It is the intuitive in you. And Mercury there is really heightening that and aspecting some big communication or something really big that has to do with your whole setup. Now, what house is it in?
The second house.
So that's money and values. What do you value? What's important to you? And it also has to do with love, because the second house, it's interesting in astrology that Venus rules over money and love. And the second house is money and love. So if you have Scorpio Saturn in Scorpio in that second house, that would be really important to you. Commitment would be really important to you.
Hugely. The fact that Saturn was retrograde in my natal chart, does that give a third layer to what's going on?
A little bit, but Saturn goes retrograde every year. So anyone born usually between January, February, and at the end of June, July is going to have a Saturn retrograde.
Okay.
So, it does give it gives another layer, because retrograde means the energy is turning inward. It's more reflective. It's more about working on yourself. So absolutely, that would be another layer.
But a retrograde in a house doesn't mean that you would have more problems in that house than someone with a direct planet?
Not necessarily. Some people believe that retrogrades have to do with going back over some stuff that you have previously addressed in other lifetimes. And because Scorpio is about power, the use of power, sometimes manipulation or wanting to control situations, with a retrograde, many times you're put in a position where you don't have the control or you don't have the power. You have to, outwardly, you have to draw it from within you. It's not something that you're going to be able to control other people or control situations or what have you. You're going to have to draw from within you the resources that it takes to take charge and make whatever changes you need to make. Well,
if Saturn is the teacher and the lesson giver, then that would make perfect sense.
And also, it rules over time. So somebody with a prominent Saturn would be much more conscientious of time and more aware of time than somebody, for instance, who has a Saturn in Pisces.
Mm-hmm. They would just kind of flow along?
Flow along. They're like a glass of water. Absolutely.
Okay.
These are all little bits of information that comprise the whole chart. And of course, each one of these taken on its own is important, but you have to look at the whole picture, like anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, right now, we've got Venus in Scorpio. We've got Mercury in Scorpio, direct, and Saturn in Scorpio. Scorpio is heavy duty. It's ruled by Pluto. And Pluto is about transformation. It's about riding the waves of power. And where are you going to do the work? How has your foundation been built, and is it solid enough to withstand some earthquakes and the tectonic plates shifting? And if it's not, then it'll be destroyed, and you'll have to rebuild. And thus we had Sandy, and we had, a few other things that have been going on. But you can bet that there are going to be, with Saturn in Scorpio, there are going to be a number of different shakeups that are going to occur that are going to test our whole structures.
There have been a lot of literal earthquakes. Several friends of mine are earthquake sensitive, and they have just been gobsmacked by how many are happening and where they're happening. northern New Jersey, please.
Yeah, right. Maine.
It's crazy.
It really is. So, you can go there and you can look and you can follow all that stuff, or you can say, listen, I'm just going to do my work. I'm going to get my stuff in a pile, and I'm going to work really hard at aligning my energy and doing the work that I've been brought on Earth to do. And just align with your, whatever you refer to as your source, your universal energy, God, whatever that source of strength and gratitude that you have within yourself, align with that and hold on to it, because that's your lifeline. It's not out there.
We're going to be continuing with Lisa V after the break. We want your calls, 248-809-3475. You're listening to Empower Readings with Corbie Mitleid. We'll be seeing you in about a minute and a half.
Welcome back to Empower Readings with Corbie Mitleid. Your calls are next at 248-809-3475. 248-809-3475. Empower Readings on Empower Radio. EmpowerRadio.com.
Welcome back to Empower Readings. This is Corbie Mitleid, and we have Lisa B., the Vermont astrologer par excellence, who's on with us tonight, talking about asteroids and Scorpio and all of the craziness that is going on in the sky right now. One of the things that we started to talk about that I would love to get your take on is all of this 2012 Mishigas. Yes, we all agree that things actually ended last October. The Mayans ran out of rock, whatever it is. But there are also a lot of people who think that something crazy is going to happen December 21st. Lisa, what's your take on that? What is going to go on December 21st that everybody is so crazed?
Well, I'm really not sure. I do know that, if you look at the aspects on that day, the moon is in Aries, which is lightning quick. And it's the winter solstice. At that point, the sun is moving into Capricorn at 0 degrees. 0 degrees is an important point in astrology. So you've got quite a number of different things going on. The sun in Capricorn squaring the moon in Aries. There's a square to Mars. I mean, there's some aspects, but if I were to look at that and somebody were to say to me, so what do you think is going to happen on the day? Nothing would really be a trigger that would immediately call my attention to something drastic, Okay. The new moon, which occurs actually on December 13th, the week before, has it's pretty significant in that from December, let's say, I think it's around the 12th of December to the 21st of December, that whole week is the marker for many different things that have to do with Sagittarius, which is Sag is, as I mentioned earlier, it's about viewpoints, the view of ourself, the view of the universe, what your ideals are, what your values are, and the galactic center, which is a key point, it's 28 degrees Sagittarius, is going to be aligned with this new moon. So the new moon has the sun and the moon lined up at 21 degrees Sag, along with Juno, which is at 27 degrees Sag. And as I said, Juno is the goddess of marriage and commitment and loyalty, and that is lined up with idealism and what's happening on a large scale, because Sag is very broad. It has a broad stroke. And aligning with the galactic center, I would think that closer to December 12th, December 13th would be more significant than the 21st.
We have a caller for you. We have Christy from Atlanta on the line. Christy, welcome to Empower Readings.
Thank you.
Hi,
Good
Christy.
to talk to you.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, we got you, babe. What's the question?
Fantastic. I have just recently started a transcontinental relationship, and I have been told that there is a move in store for me after the first of the year, which doesn't seem right for a variety of reasons, and I'm wondering if that move is my move or a move towards me.
Well, I'm not sure about that, but do you have your time of birth?
Yeah, I do.
Why don't you give me your info, and let me just take a quick look at what's happening in your chart.
Okay, I was born February 12th, 1961 at 7:52 a.m.
And where were you born?
Grand Rapids, Michigan.
And so you started this relationship a while ago, or?
We met online about 5 months ago, and he just got on a plane yesterday. He was here for the last 10 days. He came out to see.
Was that the first time you guys met?
Yeah.
How was it?
Excellent. Awesome. Better than we could have expected.
Wow, cool. I love to hear stuff like that.
Yeah.
So you're a Pisces rising, and you've got a Saturn in Capricorn, Jupiter and Moon in Capricorn, which is about, is he older?
Yes.
Or are you older than him?
No, he's older than I am.
Well, when you have a Saturn in Capricorn, you start old, and then you work your way backwards. It's kind of like you were born old.
Mm-hmm.
And Capricorn is about wisdom and getting the payoff after diligently putting one foot in front of the other and climbing a mountain, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So you have Pluto that is currently in your 11th house of groups of people, and it's going to be going over your Moon, your Jupiter, your Saturn. Is your mom alive?
No, she passed away in 2008.
Uh-huh. When Pluto went into Capricorn. So that's kind of interesting. And, I'm not sure. I see a move in here, but I don't see it for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
I see it maybe after, because you're going to have Jupiter going through your 4th house of home, which is going to, let me just take a look and see when that's going to happen. It's going to be next year, 2013.
2013 next year?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So is he renting? Does he own?
He rents. I own. Which is why it doesn't seem to make sense that I'm the one moving.
Yeah, well, I'm not really sure about that, but I can tell you that Jupiter, which is a planet of blessings and expansion, is going to be moving into Cancer, which is in your 4th house of home and family.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to happen in July of next year.
Mm-hmm.
And Saturn, which is a really, as I said, a key player in your chart, is going to be retrograde until July of next year. So I don't really see too much happening until July of next year.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
And if it does, it doesn't gel until then,
Mm-hmm.
Do you know his birthday?
December 12th, 1949.
So he's a Sag. And his Sag planets fall into your 9th house, which is kind of interesting because that is ruled by Jupiter. The 9th house is the Jupiter house. And your 9th house is ruled by, very significantly ruled by Jupiter. So Jupiter is a key player in your chart, and Jupiter is not going direct until after February. So I don't think you're going to have a clear idea of what you're going to be doing until after February, and whether or not you make the move may not come around.
That seems very, very likely. There's a whole lot of factors in play that aren't really clear yet.
Yeah, if you if you decide that you want to have a chart done or whatever, you can always give me a call. But see how it plays out and see what happens. I would not, bet too much on it much before February of really having some idea, and then in July of really being able to move forward.
Okay.
You're very intuitive, by the way. You're a healer,
mm-hmm.
and I would hope that if you're not using this, that you start taking some classes and tap into it, because you're very, very psychic.
Yeah, I'm aware.
Okay. I would actually like to get a reading with you
Thank
someday.
you for that confirmation. That's actually kind of funny.
Christy
is
one of
chart, honey.
Yeah, Christy's one of our regular callers, and if she's a healer, she heals with food. And
that's true. Let food be your medicine, and medicine be your food. Hippocrates said that. So it's a tenet that I believe in firmly.
Well, whatever mode you take, you came forth to help a lot of people. So I'm glad to hear that you're doing that.
Well, thank you. Okay, well, thanks very much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Always good to talk to you, Christy.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, I got an in quick. Had someone named CJ, and CJ wants to know about a situation with house building next year. Birthday on CJ is 10/21/53. What do you have to tell?
What's the time?
4:29 a.m.
Oh, that's interesting. That's what time I was born. And where?
Kearney, New Jersey.
Kearney?
Mm-hmm. That's
How
with
do
a
you
K.
spell that? K, okay.
I think it's Kear.
Yes, it is. No, it's not. I don't see that as being in the ephemeris here. You sure it's...
Yep.
What's the closest town?
I don't know. I'll message them back and see if I can get it. Meanwhile,
That's all right. We'll look at the longitude and latitude of another New Jersey city. Don't worry about it.
All right. It's but we have another call we can take in the meantime. That's Lori from New York. Since we've got her right on the line, let's work with her. Lori, welcome to Empower Readings.
Hi, Corbie.
What's your question?
Hi, Lori.
I want to do Tara, my daughter, who is having some emotional and financial issues. 6/29/86, 2:36 p.m.
Hold on just a sec. I can barely hear Lori. It was
Okay.
6, what was it, 6/29?
6/29/86.
What year?
86.
Okay, and what time?
2:36 p.m.
And where?
Albany, New York.
So one of the most important things that's going on with this chart is she's just gone through Saturn going through her 12th house. This is a gal, right?
Yes, it's a girl.
Your daughter.
Sarah.
Okay.
Yes.
She's had Saturn going through her 12th house. So she's been going through what's referred to in astrology as the dark night of the soul.
Oh, God, is that about right?
It's a very, very, very difficult transit under the best of circumstances. She wanted to be alone. She wants to try to figure stuff out on her own. She has been more tired than usual. Has she experienced any health issues?
She could have a whole host of issues, but she tends to not pay attention to them.
Mm-hmm. Does she have a scar on her face? Or chin, or...
I'm not really sure. She broke her front tooth twice as a child.
She has a moon in Aries, so she moves very, very quickly. And what happens is she moves first and thinks later.
Yes, she does.
And she needs to slow down, and that's what most of, any accidents or anything else that have happened to her are trying to tell her. But as I started to say, Saturn is on her Pluto. Pluto is at 4 degrees Scorpio retrograde in her first house of how she views herself and how she sees herself. Mm-hmm. And Saturn, which is the planet of structure and time and lessons, has been going over her Pluto. Saturn and Pluto are tough combinations. Very, very tough. And so I would... is she open to... She likes to take risks. That's the problem. She's a risk taker. Is she open to suggestions or getting some help?
Oh, yes. And I'm going to make her listen to this tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, she would benefit a lot from doing some any kind of therapy work, any kind of working with a counselor, whether it's a spiritual counselor, an astrologer. I'd be happy to help her. But she needs to talk to somebody because there's a lot of stuff that is awakening within her and started about 2 years ago. and I'm not really sure.
How many years ago?
It started about 2.5 years ago.
Okay.
And, well, we could go back because it actually started about 8 years ago when Mercury and Venus were transited by, she had Mercury, Venus, her Pallas Athena, her Ceres. All of these planets were all transited by Saturn, and it just hit one after the other, after the other, after the other. And then
that
it went
would
into
make
her 12th.
sense, yeah.
Then it went into her 12th house, and now it's in her first house. And this should be a brand new 28, 29-year beginning for her, but she has to get off on the right foot. She's going to have to start aligning and looking at what's going on, because the problem is that if she doesn't, she's going to have some difficulty. Because her lunar return, she's going to be faced with a lunar return, meaning the moon is going to go back to the place it was at her birth.
Correct, yep.
Okay, and that is when somebody begins a new 27-year cycle. Then the Saturn, when Saturn goes back to the place it was in your birth, at your birth, you start a brand new 29-year cycle. So she's going through all of these brand new beginnings and just starting out with all of these new clean slates. And if she isn't doing her inner work, then she's going to have a lot of difficulty and she's going to be hitting some roadblocks. She's very creative.
Yes, she is.
Very, very creative. And she can channel this energy. She'll be doing really well.
Yeah, I think she just needs some good direction. That's what I believe. But, I mean, she's going through a lot of changes, as you said, some very deep dark nights of the soul. And my prayers have been that she would awaken and that clarity would come into her and she could see what she really needs to do and what she needs to work on. Because she's really struggling right now.
Well, she came to work on a lot of stuff. I don't really see any connection with her dad.
No, nothing.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing in the chart either. He just kind of facilitated her coming forth, you know?
Yeah, he facilitated her coming forth. He really has no and had no interaction with her for 26 years. She talks to him casually, nothing in the upbringing. She was brought pretty much raised by my son's dad.
That's what she chose. I mean, it's in her chart, so that's what she chose, right?
Yeah, yeah, and
well, good luck with her.
If
you'd like to get a chart done, get the information from Corbie after, and I'd be happy to look at it for you.
Oh, definitely.
Or talk to her for you.
Oh, I would love that. Anything to kind of move her in the right direction and get her off the path she's on currently. Definitely.
Well, you're a good mom.
I'm trying. Testing my patience every now and then, but I'm trying. Corbie can vie for that.
That's all you can do.
Yep.
All right. Thanks, Lori.
Thanks, Corbie. Thanks, Lisa.
Call.
You're welcome. Yep. Thanks so much.
Bye, ladies.
All right. I managed to get to the latitude and longitude for Kearney, New Jersey. It's 40.7683 north. 74.1485 west. And we got just a couple of minutes. CJ's question is about moving, renovating the house, things like that.
It's so interesting because CJ is also a Libra rising. So CJ just went through the dark night of the soul but started it about 4 years ago. So Venus was also transited. Is CJ a man or a woman?
He's a man.
Did he recently go through a breakup or a loss of somebody?
Nope.
Because Venus was transited by Saturn, which is a lot of responsibility connected with love. So he's interested in moving, eh?
Decision on either renovating or moving. He hasn't decided which.
Well, he likes old houses. He's got Capricorn on his fourth house, so he tends to gravitate towards things that need to be renovated. I'm just trying to. I don't really see. Where is this Saturn? Well, it's kind of interesting. I think that it depends on when he starts. His Saturn is in Libra, which is about balance. So part of his problem is he can't make up his mind about a lot of things. Do I do this? Do I do this? What do you think? I don't know. What do you think? I don't know. And so Saturn, for him, he just went through his Saturn return just in the last year. And when Saturn goes back to the place it was at your birth, you want a complete change. You want to do something, especially if it's a second time, which for him it's the second time that he's gone through a Saturn return, because he's going to be 60 next year. So he is going to want complete change. And if he doesn't do the things or hasn't done the things that he's wanted to do over the last 10, 15 years, he's looking ahead and saying, I don't really have that much time. What's going to happen over the next 30 years? You know, when you go through your first Saturn return at 30 years old, you say, oh, well, you know, when I'm 40 or when I'm 50, I want blah, blah, blah. But when you go through your second Saturn return at 58, 59 years old, you're looking back and saying, what didn't I do? So I think that he is going to want a break. He's going to want something completely different. And I'm not sure the timing on this. I just don't see it. I don't see, you know.
So it's on delay.
Yeah, I don't really see it. I see that he's going to be going through a huge change next summer. Huge. Maybe something with his job, a new job, something that happens really, really quickly. And he's going to get some news on something in February because that's when Jupiter goes direct. And his Jupiter is in Gemini. So Jupiter in Gemini right now will be very helpful for him.
Okay. We have one more very, very quick call from Karen from New York. Karen, what you got real quick?
Real quick. Hi, Corbie. My name is Karen. I have a quick question in regards to my professional career. I've been on a solid path for about 20 years. And suddenly the past year, things have kind of been in upheaval.
What's your birthday,
I have no
Karen?
idea if my birthday, I'm a Pisces, March 12th. I don't know my time of birth as I'm adopted, so I don't know the time of birth.
What year were you born?
68.
And where were you born?
Cooperstown, New York.
Lovely Cooperstown.
Yes.
I love it there. Glimmerglass.
Yes. Glimmerglass Lake?
Pardon me? So, Karen, you have, you've got, you are a Pisces, but you've got Venus in Aquarius, Mercury in Aquarius, you've got a moon at 0 degrees Virgo. You're very, very detail-oriented. And, excuse me, and you've got, let's see here, Saturn is in Aries for you. And Saturn is right next to Mars. You've been with your job, you said, for how long?
About 21 years.
21 years, and it was, what, just are you still at it, or you left it, or there was a shakeup at the...
Kind of in suspension at the current time.
What were you happy at your job?
Complex question, kind of yes and no. I felt fulfilled, but was fighting the establishment.
Yeah, because it shows you've got the chart of a healer as well. You should be really doing something that has to do with helping other people, being of service to other people. When you don't feel that things are on an even keel and that you are really helping people, it's very frustrating for you. Some people can go in and do a job and then leave and feel fine no matter what they do. But you need to feel like you're changing somebody's life. You need to feel like you're making society better in some way. Does that make any sense?
Absolutely.
So it would be really great for you to be doing something that has those components. What I would suggest you do is to make a list of all the things that you see in a perfect job, and don't put them in your logical mind. Don't say, well, that doesn't make any sense. How could I work 4 hours a day and make a ton of money and never have to go into work? Don't be logical when you make the list. Just make a list of every single thing that would make you happy in a job. And as the days go by between now and the 13th of December, I want you to continually add to that list. Okay? And just put it aside.
Thank you.
And what the universe is just saying to you is that it's time for you to move on and to step into your power, because you have a very powerful chart that can affect lots of lives, and I don't think you were really doing it at your job. I think you were.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Hitting your head against a wall.
Yes.
Okay. Karen, got to cut it short because we're almost out of time. Thanks so much.
Thanks for the call, Karen.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Lisa, where are people going to find you after all of this information? A lot of people are going to want to get in touch with you.
They can go to AvalonAstrology.net, AVALON astrology.net. They can call my 800 number, which is 800-224-1020. And I post on Facebook. If you go to Avalon Astrology on Facebook, I post celestial events and upcoming workshops and all that kind of stuff on my Facebook page. But, yeah, that's pretty much it.
And you've got a radio show, too, that they can listen to online. Okay.
It's called Lightline. It's called Lightline, and it's on Tuesdays at 10 a.m., and currently it's on WBTN, like William Baker, Thomas, Nancy, AM.org. And that's listed on the website, so you can always click. If you miss that, you can always click on the website and listen to it live or download the MP3 from past shows and listen to Corbie.
Yes, I know. She and I will be trading shows back and forth. Lisa, this has been wonderful. If you had one quick sentence of celestial advice for people as they go into the new year to take,
I would say dig up the roots that you have planted in the ground, take a look at them, see if they are in alignment with your soul. Because if they're not, you're going to need to scrape them off, start over again, replant, and just connect with whatever that higher universal energy is that really gets you up in the morning and makes you smile. And be grateful, because gratitude can make a whole chart that is going through a really rough time, can turn it completely around. So I would say be grateful, stand your ground, and do your work.
We are very big on the attitude of gratitude here at Empower Readings. Guys, if you want to find me in the meantime, it's firethroughspirit.com. On Facebook, Corbie Mitleid or Fire Through Spirit, 877-321-Corbie. And if you are in the New England area, December 7th through 9th, I will be teaching at Kripalu, the world-renowned yoga Soul's Plan and Soul's Gifts author. See you then.